All right, welcome to NorCal Sports Network, and we are joined by National Baseball sports writer Dan Schlossberg, and we are going to be talking to Dan today about his brand new book, Home Run King, with the great Henry Aaron. Dan, welcome.
Thanks so much, Dan.
All right, so yeah, we're excited to get into this book because Henry Aaron was, as you say in the book, maybe the greatest player of all time. Holds many records, obviously, most RBIs, and had the record of 715 before it was broken by Barry Bonds, and a lot of controversy of that. We'll get into some of that as well. But tell us, what made you want to write the book about Hank Aaron?
This is actually my second Hank Aaron biography. I did one in 1974, just before he broke Babe Ruth's record. That was called Hammerin' Hank, the Henry Aaron story. And I thought he deserved a book then, and 50 years later, deserved another book.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you obviously, had a chance to talk to Hank many times, and he was just like a lot of the old greats, very humble man. Tell us a little bit about some attributes about Henry Aaron that maybe a lot of people just may not know about him.
Well, I know that he told his kids that just because he's a celebrity doesn't make him better than anyone else. He said, treat everyone the same. Everybody is entitled. They're all decent people trying to make a living. And that's what I take away from it. Here's a superstar, a great athlete who actually made millions after he left baseball. And he still had that attitude of humility, honesty, humbleness, kind of the opposite of Willie Mays, I hate to say. Mays was very charismatic and flamboyant, and Aaron was really the polar opposite. Plus, Aaron played in small markets. Milwaukee, he played more years than Atlanta. Atlanta was a small market until Ted Turner with the Superstation in 1976, and that was after Aaron was already gone. So, he had these things against him. Plus, being a black man going after a white man's hallowed record, he got tons of hate mail. It was awful.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, would you say, I mean, granted, Jackie Robinson had to face huge challenges and he kind of got the same hate mail. Would you think that maybe Hank, I don't want to compare, but I'm guessing Hank Aaron he got even more notoriety in a bad way, because of how people were treating him when he was going after Babe Ruth's record. I mean, that's almost comparable, right? To what Hank Aaron went through also as Jackie Robinson when he first broke in.
It's very comparable, Eric, because the age of television did not exist in 1947. I mean, it was just starting out. By the time Hank Aaron was playing, it was all over the place. He got so much more publicity, and as a result, all the bigots focused on him. And Hank Aaron also had to integrate the South Atlantic League, it was called, the Sally League. Back in 1953, it was an all-white league. So his comment was, every city in the league was bad. Every city in the whole league. There was not one place, no sanctuary for him. He had to stay in different accommodations than the team, eat in different restaurants than the team. He and Felix Mantilla and one other guy who never made the majors integrated that league. But he won the MVP award down there. And then next year, he was in the major leagues with the Milwaukee Braves.
Yeah, like you said, he never played in a big market. I mean, had he played in New York or Los Angeles or even San Francisco, where Willie Mays was, played, I think he would have got so much more national media, because you look at his achievements, like he holds the all-time record, right, for RBIs, most total bases,
extra base hits,
has a lifetime batting average of what was I trying to remember?
305.
Yeah,
305.
Him and Mays. I think Mays ended up
302.
302. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, unbelievable player. Didn't have the speed that Mays had on the base pass, and that.
I challenge that. Hank Aaron had three. He was at the first when he was a 30-30 guy. He was only the third guy in Major League history to become a 30-30 guy. So, You know,
Yeah, I guess. I guess
he just didn't run as much as Mays
He
did.
just didn't run as much. Yeah,
That's what
and
it is.
The Braves had
yeah.
more hitting in their lineup. That's the reason.
Right.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. And what is the difference between, because you said you wrote the first book in 76. What is
74
or 74? What's the difference?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. What's the difference between that book that you wrote? Because I'm guessing that's probably, is that more just right after his career, and is this book focused more after, or are they kind of similar?
This book, no, they're not similar at all.
Okay.
That book was written in chronological order, as are all the Hank Aaron books, except this one. This one was written by topic rather than time. I treated each chapter as if it were an individual magazine article. I'm primarily a magazine writer, and there were certain things that I thought should be included in the book. I did not even write the chapters in sequence, totally out of sequence. But it's something, it just needed to be told. This way, readers can find out everything they wanted to know about Hank Aaron. This book included so much from his post-career. And that's why the title is a play on words. The remarkable record of Hank Aaron, not only as an athlete, but as a humanitarian, a civil rights advocate. He did so much after he retired.
That is quite interesting, because okay, so you're going to touch on some of what he did during the civil rights, because that's kind of something that is definitely a marked difference between how Willie Mays treated civil rights and how Hank Aaron treated civil rights. So that's interesting.
Big difference. In fact, Hank Aaron befriended Jackie Robinson when Aaron was a teenager in Mobile, Alabama. The Brooklyn Dodgers came through on a barnstorming tour, and Jackie Robinson gave a talk. Hank Aaron played hooky from school to go hear the talk and actually befriended Jackie and some of the early Black Dodgers, Don Newcomb, Roy Campanella, in addition to Jackie. And he said those card games were like college for anybody else.
Wow. That is something. That is something. Because I know when I've read Willie Mays's book, I can't remember what, I think it's called 24. You know, he kind of stayed away from civil rights, right? He didn't really want to get into that. He wanted to just focus on baseball. And, you know, I can understand that. And Hank Aaron and Jackie Robinson, they're much more vocal. And, you know, hey, what can we do to help our fellow blacks in the country to get their civil rights? So I'm guessing that some of that book is going to concentrate on that aspect of what Hank Aaron was able to do for the country.
Yeah, that book was written by John Shea, right? 24. Yeah.
John Shea, of the Chronicle.
Right.
What's interesting for Hank Aaron, talking about civil rights, he was a very political guy. So was Jackie Robinson, but Jackie Robinson was a Republican who campaigned for Richard Nixon. Hank Aaron said he could never figure that out. Hank Aaron was a Democrat. 4 Democratic presidents credited Hank Aaron's campaigning for them with their winning the White House. 4. Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Bill Clinton all said the same thing. If they didn't have Hank Aaron with them on the campaign trail, they wouldn't have won.
Wow.
Unique. That's unique.
That is. Now, some of the things I know that just in reading some excerpts of the book, that I did not realize that Hank had a desire to be a manager and even the commissioner of baseball.
And general manager. He was interested in a position with authority. He left the Braves after the 74 season because they refused to give him any position like that. So he said, okay, let me go back to Milwaukee. I'll play 2 more years. I love that city. Bud Selig is a close friend. He was the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers then. And so the Braves traded him to the Brewers. He finished his career as a DH. And then Ted Turner came along and bought the Braves and offered Hank Aaron the job as farm director. And in that job, he had to cut 2 significant guys. One of them was Brian Snitker, who was a minor league catcher who couldn't hit.
Wow.
And the other one was Larry Aaron, his oldest son, who also couldn't hit.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Got to cut your own son. Oh, that's got to be tough.
Now, isn't Tommy Aaron was his brother, right? Tommy Aaron was his brother.
Tommy Aaron was his brother. He came along later. The Aarons played together in 1962, the whole season, and homered in the same game 3 times.
Wow.
Which is significant because Tommy only hit 13 in his whole career.
Yeah, that's something else. That is something else. Now, tell us about his relationship with Willie Mays. How was that?
They were friendly rivals. I mean, they came so close to being teammates. I mean, so close.
Oh, yeah, $50?
$50.
Yeah,
$50.
$50.
The Boston Braves and New York Giants were bidding to sign Aaron.
Unbelievable.
And the Boston Braves offered $50 more. Now, to Aaron, who left home with $2 in his pocket and a ham sandwich, $50 was a hell of a lot of money. So he went for it. $50, it's $50.
Wow.
He was signed by the Boston Braves, but never played there. He played in their farm system. And then the team moved to Milwaukee.
Right. And you know what's fascinating? The state of Alabama has produced some of the greatest. Think about it. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Willie McCovey. I mean,
Satchel Paige, Billy Williams.
Satchel Paige.
A bunch of them.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's incredible how the state of Alabama was a hotbed of MLB talent, specifically Black MLB talent. I mean, it's fantastic.
I think the weather helped because, it wasn't really cold there. They could play baseball more.
That makes sense. You could play year round almost.
Yeah.
Right.
Between the tornadoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, the outfield of Roberto Clemente, Hank Aaron, and Willie Mays in all-star games. It was just like unbelievable. It was like,
and Frank Robinson was on the bench.
Yeah. It's like that history of that era of baseball to me was the greatest.
I agree.
The 60s and 70s were unbelievable. The talent was just mind-boggling. It's just every position had a superstar. I mean, not just a superstar for a year or two, but for 10 plus years.
Yeah, that's true. Look at Warren Spahn. Warren Spahn was my favorite pitcher of all time. What I like about him, first of all, he was Aaron's teammate, and so there's a lot about him in my book. But beyond that, 363 wins, most by any left-hander. 363 wins, most by any pitcher after World War II. And now get this, 382 complete games because he could hit.
Whew.
Yeah. And you talk about Warren Spahn.
Different time, man.
Being covering the Giants a lot, maybe the greatest game ever pitched. Warren Spahn and Juan Marichal dueling for 18 innings.
16
innings, no runs scored the first 15 innings.
Right, till Willie hit the home run in the 16th. But you know what's interesting about that game that nobody remembers? Hank Aaron hit a home run in that game earlier. The wind off the bay blew the ball back. It was caught in left field.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, that was before it was enclosed candlestick. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Wide open. Yep.
Yeah, it was just wide open. Yeah. Wow. I mean, what a game. Now, you follow baseball. Obviously, you're a national sports writer. What do you think the difference is in today's game when guys, I mean, one complete game in a season by a guy is kind of like, oh, wow, it gets big notoriety for pitching a complete game. These guys used to pitch 30 plus complete games a season.
That's right.
Why is I know the specialty of the bullpen and everything, but why can't guys go more than 6?
They could. It's just become universally accepted in baseball that, you pitch 6 innings, 7 innings at the most. That's a quality start. And then the bullpen gets called in. Shouldn't be that way. The Houston Astros under Dusty Baker, former Giant and manager, that was a good example of a team where the pitchers worked deep into games.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, he did. He did get a lot. I got 2 quick questions. So first, how did you you grew up in New Jersey. How did you become an Atlanta Braves fan? And additionally, in researching for this book, did you find any new information that you didn't know before when writing this book?
Yes and yes. Okay, I became an Atlanta Braves fan in 1957 when the Dodgers and Giants were leaving New York. All my friends rooted for the Yankees, but the Milwaukee Braves beat them in the World Series, led by the guy in the cover of my book. He won all 3 Triple Crown categories, leading both teams, and the Braves won the World Championship, their only World Championship, by the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty amazing. And I found out lots of new things about Hank Aaron that I didn't know. For example, after he retired, the Carters and the Aarons went to Europe on a skiing trip. Now, Hank Aaron could not ski. Although he was a great athlete. He played racquetball, tennis, he went fishing, he played baseball, he played high school football, but he couldn't ski. He and Carter kept falling down and laughing at each other.
That's funny. That's funny.
Wow. That is great. That is
good thing
great.
they were in Europe and not the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think as far as Aaron's accomplishments, what do you think was his greatest accomplishment as a baseball player, other than, breaking Babe Ruth's home run record?
I would say his consistency, but if you want to go for a record, it's got to be total bases, because that is a phenomenal record. He leads in total bases. Nobody is even close. Albert Pujols is second, but he's quite a ways away, and then Stan Musial was third. But total bases, Aaron was just way out in front. In fact, he ran 12 miles further around the bases than anybody in baseball history.
Wow.
And did he? It seemed, because I saw a little blurb in the email that we had about the information on the book, that Hank Aaron didn't get very many MVP votes. Is that Willie Mays kind of had that same issue, right? They both kind of, sometimes they're almost too good, so they had to pick someone else. Otherwise, these two gentlemen would be voted in every time, right?
Well, one of the problems was they divided the vote with teammates. Aaron had Eddie Matthews on his team, for example.
Yeah.
So in 1959, when Hank had 355, Ernie Banks won the MVP, but Matthews was second, not Aaron. Aaron never was runner-up in the MVP. So he won one MVP in 23 years and never was runner-up, which is amazing to me. But then again, 9 voters left him off their Hall of Fame ballot too.
That's criminal. Honestly, you shouldn't even be allowed to vote if you're going to leave Hank Aaron off your ballot. I mean, that's just,
he should have been the first unanimous. Should have been the first unanimous guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes.
There's just no doubt. I mean, I'm looking here at his lifetime hits. He had 3,771 hits. The 755. Let's get into that 755, because a lot of people love Barry Bonds here in the Bay Area, and Bonds hit the famous 756 in Oracle Park in San Francisco, and everybody celebrated in the Bay Area, but a lot of people think it's tainted. What was Hank's thoughts on Barry breaking that record?
Aaron shied away from controversy, but his relationship with Barry Bonds was icy. It was not warm. And Aaron considered it a fluke. He said it was unfair. He believes, as the Hall of Fame voters believe, that Barry cheated. If Barry hadn't cheated, 7 MVP awards, he would have been in the Hall of Fame long ago. I don't think he will ever be in the Hall of Fame. Same goes for Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Rafael Palmeiro. There's a whole bunch of them. Roger Clemens is another one.
Right.
So Hank Aaron did it cleanly. He did it fairly. And I think that should be accounted for.
What was amazing to me is, all these athletes today using some type, in the past, PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. Today it's weights, it's supplements, nutrition. I remember watching Hank play smoking in the dugout.
That's true. That's true. Had he not done that, how much better would he have been?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Imagine that. Here's a guy that was an incredible athlete, hit 305. And that's another thing, Dan. It really bothers me about today's game. You look at Aaron, Mays, Clemente, many of these guys, the back of their baseball card was pretty consistent year after year after year. Today, guys hit 300. The next year, they're hitting 235. And now today's batting average, I heard this year for 2024, the average batting average in the major leagues is like 239. What?
That's pathetic.
I mean,
yes.
You guys would have been.
The weather is a factor. The weather is definitely a factor. It's been so wet and rainy, especially in the Northeast and the Midwest. That's a factor. Usually when the weather warms up, the hitters warm up too.
Okay. That makes sense.
But yeah, we should probably see that. Yeah.
And the style of baseball is a little bit different. It's the over the last few years, it's all been about the 3 true outcomes. It's all about the strikeout, the walk, and the home run. It's not the heyday of about, hitting behind a runner, the hit and run, whatever it may be, advancing a runner over, maybe bunting a little bit more. So the game has definitely changed as far as the tactics used in trying to score runs.
Very good point. Let me bring up a game, May 26, 1959. Harvey Haddix pitches 12 perfect innings against the Braves in Milwaukee on a cold, damp night, bottom of the 13th. Felix Mantilla safe on an error, end of perfect game. But it's still a no-hitter. It's still a shutout.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
then up comes Eddie Matthews. Eddie Matthews bunts Mantilla to second base. There's a runner on second base, one out, bottom of the 13th. Up comes Hank Aaron. He gets an intentional walk.
Okay.
Then Joe Adcock hits the ball over the fence. You would think that'd be a home run, but no. Aaron, in his excitement, went as far as second base. Seeing the ball disappear over the fence, he knew the game was over. He went directly to the dugout. So Adcock, with his head down in his home run trap, he just passed Aaron on the bases and was called out. Final score, 1-0, not 3-0.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy. It almost reminds me of the Giants back in the day, the boner. Remember?
Oh yeah,
Merkel's boner. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Except the Giants, didn't lose the game. At least Atlanta still won the game, right?
Yeah.
Or was it Milwaukee at the time?
Yeah.
Well, 12 perfect innings. Got nothing to show for it.
OPS plus was a big thing today. And looking at Aaron versus Mays, I see they both had a 155 OPS plus. Their numbers across the board pretty similar, but Willie gets the notoriety probably more so because he played center field, and his great catch in 54 off the bat of Vic Wertz in the World Series. People remember that. Aaron, like you said, was just a humble guy, played in the Deep South. I'm fascinated that he wanted to be commissioner of baseball. How serious was he, and was it ever given much consideration by baseball owners?
He thought about it in passing and knowing that he would never get it because he's black. In fact, it's kind of funny that we've even had a Jewish commissioner in Bud Selig. There's a lot of prejudice in baseball. Hank Greenberg went through the same thing. The first Hammer and Hank, he went through the exact same thing.
He did.
Because he was Jewish. So it happens. And by the way, I got to tell this Hank Greenberg story as long as I brought up his name.
Yeah.
In 1947, he was traded from Detroit to Pittsburgh. He played first base. When Jackie Robinson got on first base, the first time he met Hank Greenberg, Hank said, "I went through a lot of this crap too. I'm going to help you." And he really helped Jackie Robinson. That was left out of the movie 42. It was a major mistake to leave that out of the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Huh.
Well, Dan, I know time is limited, and I want to get more information on your book. Where can people get it? I'm assuming Amazon is a spot, but where's the best place to get this book, Home Run King by Dan Schlossberg? It's a 50-year anniversary. It was April 8th, 1974, off the pitch from Al Downing. Believe it or not, this game was broadcast nationally on the first week of the season. I think it was like game 3, or wasn't it? Third game?
Game 4.
Game 4. Game 4, April 8th, Al Downing, Vin Scully doing the game nationally. I can't even remember what network it was at the time. It was either CBS or NBC, I would imagine.
You did the Dodger game. Kurt Gowdy did the NBC game. Milo Hamilton did WSB.
Okay, maybe. Okay, that's right. Kurt Gowdy was on it. And then what was amazing, which you wouldn't see today, but people streamed the field and running around the bases with Hank. Today, security wouldn't allow that.
And his mom coming out to hug him. That was fantastic.
Yeah. But tell us where we can people can get the book, and anything else you'd like to share about the book before we close here.
Okay. Amazon.com is probably a good place to save a few bucks that way. Could get it at Barnes & Noble too. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to do a shout out for Eddie Matthews, who was the manager on April 8th, 1974, because he and Hank Aaron hit more home runs together as teammates.
They played together, yes.
And any tandem in baseball history, including Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, including Mason McCovey.
Right.
The time they were teammates. And Aaron Matthews also homered in the same game 75 times. That's another major league record.
Wow. That
interesting. That's something I never knew either.
Great to know.
That's what I love about baseball. You can find so many cool things, man.
Yeah, baseball is the most romantic sport around. It's just the history of the game. And, Dan, we just want to thank you so much for your time today. Everybody go out and get this book, Home Run King by Dan Schlossberg. You're going to love it. I'm going to get it. I haven't had a chance to read it completely yet. But we wanted to get you on.
And before we go, Dan, do you have a YouTube channel that you want to promote?
Not really.
No. Okay.
Website, danschlossberg.net. But I do want to mention that Dusty Baker wrote the foreword. I know you guys are San Francisco guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Dusty was in the on-deck circle and Hank hit that home run. And he's been my personal friend since the early 70s when he was a rookie with the Braves.
Yeah.
And there's pictures showing that in the book. Pictures of the very young me with Dusty Baker a long time ago.
That's great. Yeah. So if go to Dan's website, you can look there too. Can you get the book from your website too, or?
I don't know. I have a webmaster and I don't know what she's done yet.
Okay. danschlossberg.net. There you see it right at the bottom of underneath his name. One last thing before we go, Dan, give us your it's still early. We're only a little over a quarter of the way through the season. I know you're a Braves fan, and it looks to me like it's going to be between the Braves, Dodgers, and Phillies for the National League, and probably in Baltimore and I don't know, Yankees. And I wouldn't give up on Houston still yet, even though they got off to a slow start. Give us a prediction, what you see happening for the 2024 World Series and who will win it.
Well, the first 6 weeks have been rather strange. For example, Ronald Acuna Jr., who was a unanimous MVP of the National League, was benched yesterday because he hasn't hit at all. No power, too many strikeouts, getting picked off all over the place. This guy stole 73 bases last year. He's getting picked off every time he reaches first. He's just not producing. Matt Olson led the majors in home runs and RBIs. He's batting, or was batting, under 200 until a couple of days ago. Austin Riley, another guy, not hitting. When these three guys start to hit, which I predict is going to be simultaneously as the weather warms up, look out for the Braves because their pitching is really good.
Yeah.
All right. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very good. Well, we wish we could say the same for the San Francisco Giants, but we kind of looks like it might be a long year. But, as you say, you never know because things are going to heat up, but it doesn't really heat up in San Francisco. So
got to keep your guys healthy. You got two guys on the IL.
Yeah, it's been a rough week and a half for sure. Well, Dan Schlossberg, thank you so much for your time and just wealth of baseball knowledge. Go out and everybody get his book, and you will love it. If you're a history of baseball, you've got to read this book. Thank you, Dan.
Take care, Dan.